3, 2, 1.
Hi, and welcome to another Empathy Tale, creating compassion one story at a time. This is Victoria Wolders, and I'm your host of Empathy Tales. If you'd like to connect with me, feel free to reach out to me at mykidslocker.com for any questions, comments, insights, suggestions, or anything else that you want to chat with me on. Thank you so much for joining us today for an Empathy Tale. Today is the story of the three masks. And once again, we dive back into the Oak and Eagle Kingdom. Today, we talk about emotions. We talk about specific masks that might show emotions. Do you ever feel that when you're in a certain area, or maybe with a group of people, that you put a mask on and act a certain way? Maybe you do that with your family. Maybe you do that when you're at school. Or maybe you do that with a group of people. Maybe you're on a sports team. Sometimes what we have to do in life, we have to mold in with a group. And molding in with a group is fine. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes there has to be compromise. Sometimes you may not have to share, should not share everything that you're thinking. But over time, if you choose to continue to put a mask on, sometimes you lose your identity and you lose out who you really are. And so in today's story, we talk actually about some masks and feelings that happen when a mask is put on. So think about your masks. Think about your feelings. And maybe today you will learn something about emotions and feelings. Okay, well, if you're comfortable in sitting down, then I will begin. Once upon a time, a long time ago, in the land of the Oak and Eagle Kingdom, there lived a princess, and she lived in the land of the Eastern Eagle. She owned a beautiful palace. It was shiny and beautiful. She used to have a collection of masks, and she had 3 beautiful masks that she would hang by her front door every day. There was something very special about these masks, because there was a mask that was made out of water. There was a mask made out of fire, and there was a mask made out of earth. What she would do is, because she lived in this beautiful castle, she had everything given to her. The only thing is that she was in this palace right by a lake, and she suffered with worries and anxieties. She was scared that if she went out into the real world without a mask on, people would not love her. She had shame. This princess was named the Masked Princess because no one ever saw her real face. Now, the only thing is when she went out, she would sometimes put the water mask on. What would happen would be the water mask would change her face into someone who was refreshing and sparkling. People would walk by her and they would say, "Oh, what a happy, refreshing face she has." Everyone loved her water mask. Often, she'd have people fall in love with her and say, "You have the most beautiful face ever." People knew she was wearing a mask, yet would often forget. Sometimes she'd wear her fire mask. The fire mask was absolutely beautiful as well because the fire mask would give her warmth and fury. When villagers had problems to solve, she would wear her fire mask to give judgment. People would ask her to turn down the heat of her fire mask, and she would show such a loving, warm, and welcoming face. People wanted to be around her. It was because the warmth of her mask. The fire mask attracted people to her because fire often was like a flame. And when somebody stares into a flame, they can't always look away. It just made you want to stare and continue to stare at the flickering flame. So she often would catch many people's attention. Yet when she was to judge with the fire mask, judgment would rain down on the people. Sometimes what would happen is in the springtime, she would often wear the earth mask because in the springtime there was such beauty when the new life was growing out from the earth. She would walk around with the earth mask, and people would see new life and her enthusiasm and beauty. People would be drawn to her. She had these 3 masks. The water mask, which was often used in the summer, it was refreshing to people. The fire mask, which is often used in the fall and winter. And then she had the earth mask that was often used in the spring. Now she began to think about her masks. She had been given them at birth, and these masks had grown with her. Well, in the winter, she would just stay in her palace and wouldn't often go out. One day, when she was lonely, she decided to visit the wizard who had gifted her these masks. This was the wizard of the land of the Eastern Eagle. She went to the wizard and said, "I don't know who I am. I have been wearing these 3 masks all my life." He turned to her and said, "Try just using your own face." She responded, "Well, what do you mean? I'm afraid to go out. What happens if people see my real face?" And he said, "You have a beautiful face. Why are you ashamed of your face?" She said, "Well, I've been wearing my mask for so long, or my masks for so long. I've just never thought about going out in front of people with my real face." He said, "Why don't you try to go out and meet people with your normal face?" And she said, "I'm scared. I'm scared of what people will think." He responded, "Well, if you try to empathize with other people and feel what other people feel, you will be able to overcome your shame." She said, "Okay, I will try." The wizard left the next day. She had decided to go out without a mask. The first person she met was a villager on the road. She was scared. The villager said, "Hello, nice to meet you. I don't think I know who you are." The masked princess, who was unmasked, said, "Well, I'm the masked princess. You probably don't know me because I've always worn a mask." He said, "I think you're beautiful, and I think that you don't need masks anymore. I think you should let everyone see who you are." She said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, you have beautiful brown eyes, beautiful brown hair, and you're a very kind person." So the princess learned that she didn't have to have a mask. She went back to her palace, and she was a little surprised that the stranger would say such kind words to her. Yet she'd been wearing those masks for so long that she had forgotten even what her face looked like. For so many years, she always assumed that masks were what she needed to survive. She was wrong. She felt sad. She felt sad that she had never experienced people knowing who she really was. So from that point on, her anxiety and her worries started to lessen. She just decided that from that point on, she was going to try to not leave the house with a mask. She would leave the masks in the house. Every day it got a little easier, until she had gone a full year without wearing the mask. By the end of the year, she finally realized that she had gone the whole year. People came to know her personally and came to know what she looked like. They began to celebrate. We know that through this story, we learn that you can overcome fears of people rejecting you by celebrating the person you are. And the masked princess soon became known as the unmasked princess because her legacy ended up being her true identity, which was her true beauty. And the masks stayed in her beautiful castle on a wall, and she admired them as they were a big part of her past life. but she realized that they were part of her past life and not part of her true life. The end. Well, thank you so much for listening to this story, The Three Masks. I hope that you took some time to think about masks. What masks do you wear? Do you tend to hide yourself? Sometimes when we think about shame, which is the idea being that you're not good enough, that I'm personally not good enough, we often hide our true self. And I think that we have to overcome that by seeing other people empathetically and knowing that all of us have a backstory. All of us have been hurt. All of us have had pain in our lives. And sometimes what happens is when you try to show your true self, some people have a hard time with that. They don't understand it. They've never maybe done it themselves. And sometimes we have to be ourselves despite what other people think or feel. Well, thank you so much for listening to another Empathy Tale, creating compassion, one story at a time. Please reach out to me at mykidslocker.com to learn more about these empathy tales. I am a teacher, a mother, a friend, a sister, a daughter, and a fellow traveler in this life journey. I hope that you can take these stories and you'd be able to use them in your life to be better, and just be a better human being. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for listening. I'm so grateful that you were able to take some time to listen to the story, and I hope you, too, create compassion, one story at a time. I'll see you soon. Thank you.
3, 2, 1.